I have a recurring role on a crime drama series that's about to launch its fourth season, and I thought I would share how I booked the role because it's a pretty unconventional way of getting the role, but I think it also might be encouraging and maybe give you ideas on booking projects in the future. So it started because I decided that I wanted to find Christian community amongst the film industry. And in doing so, I was living in Austin, Texas, and I decided to look for Christian film festivals. So I found one, and they were needing, I think, different positions, like needing help with their festival. And one of those was the host, like the MC who interviews the filmmakers and all of that. So I auditioned for that for the festival, ended up getting it. And I worked for that festival for 3 years, and I would do, all these interviews with various filmmakers. And I've met a lot of people doing that. And one of those was the creator of Vindication, Jared O'Flaherty. So when Jared put his first short film, so episode one of Vindication was a short film by itself. He had no intentions of taking it farther, but it did so well. So when episode one came through, the short film came through our film festival, I interviewed him and got to know the team and all of that. And Jared had already done his homework on me. I had actually won an award the previous year for Best Actress for a feature film at that festival. And I had a YouTube channel where I was sharing my acting adventures and, auditions and updates and bookings and all of that. So he had really gotten to know who I was before I came to the festival. And then our worlds collided at the festival. We got to talk and know each other. And what happened was he told me that if this, ends up going further, I have an idea for you playing a lead detective and, a little bit about our story. Would you be interested? And I was like, well, yeah, like I would love that. I would definitely be interested. But as actors, we know not every project that has good intentions is actually going to go on to become something. So I didn't really hold my breath. But what Jared did do is he booked me on his upcoming short film called Morning Rift. And I didn't quite know this, but it was kind of like my trial, like my test run that he was doing. And so I went for like one day. We shot out in the hot sun. I mean, this was, I don't remember what month, but it was awfully hot. And we shot into the night, and there were bugs and there were all these things. I didn't mind. I enjoy acting. So, but for him, it was kind of like a trial. And I guess I passed. So then, whenever Vindication was, getting off the ground, that was a period in my life where I felt that God had called me away from acting. I felt like He had told me, just kind of lay it down and pause the acting. Not that I was never going to do it again, but I did feel like He wanted me to pause it. So we actually moved away from Austin. I think I had shared about this on social. So Jared kind of knew that that's where I was. And while we were gone, while we had moved away, Jared wrote me and he was like, "Hey, I just want you to know that role is ready if you want it. Like Detective Chris Tanner is available. I know that you said that you're kind of pausing the acting right now, but just pray on it and let me know what you want to do." And I was like, okay, like I'm definitely gonna have to pray on this because I 100% feel that I'm supposed to pause my acting, but I 100% feel that God gave me this opportunity with Vindication. So I was incredibly conflicted. So I did. I was praying about it. I was like, Lord, I know what you called me to do. I know I'm not supposed to be doing this. And I feel like you handed this to me. Like, what do you want me to do? And the next day, I was going to a staffing agency to try to find a job. And it was so crazy. So before I left the house, I was wearing a certain shirt, and I'll tell you more about it later, but I was wearing a certain shirt. And when I was leaving, it was totally fine. It would have worked. But for some reason, I thought, I'm going to change my shirt. And so I did. I put on a different shirt. And then I drove the, 40 minutes or so to the staffing agency. And literally, I'm telling you, I was praying so hard about this because I wanted to honor God and what He had asked me to do. When I walked into the staffing agency, I walked up to the desk and there was this guy sitting in the chairs and he greeted me very kindly. And I thought, wow, you're awfully nice for somebody who's here looking for a job, but cool. And when I was waiting at the desk, this lady comes out from an office and she looked at me and she goes, "Would you want to be in a commercial?" And I was like, commercial for what?" And she said, "For my staffing agency. I was just in my office praying that God would send me an actor." And I was like, well, that's perfect because I am an actor. And I'm telling you, I was floored. I was floored. And it turns out the guy that was sitting there that was awfully kind to me was the director. So I literally signed paperwork right then, and we did a commercial for her staffing agency. And the whole shirt thing was because the shirt that I had on initially was full of stripes, so it would have morayed on camera. And I ended up changing into a solid shirt before I went to the staffing agency. I I just immediately, whenever she asked me that, I knew God was answering my prayer and saying, "Yes, you can do vindication." It was just bananas. It was the wildest thing. So I did end up telling Jared, I was like, Jared, I got my answer. Like I can do vindication. And it was just so crazy to know that God does answer our prayers and in ways that we would not expect. Like I would have never, ever expected it. But as soon as she said that, my spirit knew that I was, I guess, allowed, like it was fine. Even though he called me to pause acting, it was okay for me to move forward with vindication. And in that time that I've been doing vindication, I didn't pursue anything else. The same time that God asked me to take a pause from acting and we moved away, my agency ended up dissolving. So I didn't have to leave my agency. It just dissolved. I didn't look for another one. And I don't know why he had me pause acting, but he did. And I was obedient. And so I wanted to share that with you to encourage you that if you just listen to God, He will steer you in the right direction. I have a lot of friends who have also felt like they were supposed to step away from acting for a period of time, and then God brought them back into it. And I don't know if it's, just God kind of like testing where our loyalty lies, or are we putting this thing on a pedestal, or are we putting Him on a pedestal? I don't know why God does it, but He has His reasons. And he just answers in the coolest ways. So I thought I would share that. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments.